The Christmas Shoes is a pretty good film. I feel like there were one too many things going on. If they just focused on one, maybe two of the stories, it could have been okay, but they brought in other things to try and make it more emotional. And I feel like it took away from the main stories. But aside from that, it's pretty good. This was released in 2002. It's directed by Andy Walk, written by Donna Van Leer and Wesley Bishop, and it's set in the run up to Christmas, and we have mostly two individuals, two families' stories, but we have some other characters brought in as well. Everything's connected together, and I see what they were trying to do. At least I believe they were trying to say that people can have different kinds of problems and different emotional situations that can make things really difficult, and everybody goes through grief and loss and difficult times. But as I said, I feel like they were trying too hard to make it too emotional. There's one specific thing that I'm referring to. I might mention it with a spoiler warning if I remember, but I'm sure you'll know which bit I mean. But aside from that, everything seemed well connected. Everything worked quite well. We have two families who live in the same area. One of them is about a family where the father is working constantly. He's never at home. He's not spending enough time with his wife and his daughter, and he has to learn that spending time with your loved ones is far more important than being at the office 24/7. Even if the work you do is really important and helps a lot of people, you need to find balance, particularly at Christmas. The other story is a lot more emotional, and it involves a mother and her husband and young son, and she's going through some really difficult, potentially life threatening health complications. I don't want to say too much more than that, but it is heartbreaking. IMDb does give a tiny bit more away than that, so just proceed with caution if you do decide to go and check this out, if you read IMDb. But it is very emotional, and that's one, for me, that was the source of the most emotion, and it put a few tears in my eyes, and it's very sentimental and very moving and very, very well done. It's a story that's very well told. With regards to the Christmas Shoes, honestly, I feel like it was a little bit random. And again, I get what they were trying to do. This young boy was trying to get these Christmas shoes, these dancing shoes, for his mother, who was very unwell, but it felt a little forced, and it just didn't make that much sense at times. Again, I appreciate the message they were trying to give, but I don't think it was the best part of the narrative. But that aside, it is a really beautiful film. Yes, they tried to do too much, they tried too hard, and it just made it a little bit ridiculous and detracted from the parts of the narrative that were actually interesting. But that aside, it is a very emotional, very well done film. Great performances. Definitely a generally well written and well executed narrative. It's not the happiest film, let's put it that way, but it is very sentimental, very heartfelt, very heartwarming. We see some kindness towards others, which is always a really inspirational thing. I think it's a very beautiful, heartwarming film that will definitely reinforce the true spirit of Christmas over the commercial aspect. And if that's the kind of Christmas film you're in the mood for, then this might be one that's worth going with. It's not too bad at all. So, a tiny spoiler from now, I'll discuss the part that I thought was just a little bit ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. And one thing that struck me is that there's so much going on, I don't remember most of the characters' names. There is so much going on in this film, too much, that I don't know who to focus on. I don't know what information to retain. So the reason I'm not mentioning any characters' names is because, quite frankly, I don't remember them. Their names are not mentioned that frequently in the film. It's a very busy film, and that's really the only issue I have with this, is that they tried to do too much, and that meant we didn't get the chance to really focus on things. But the one bit that really annoyed me is when the grandmother, as I said, big spoiler, of course, but it's when the grandmother died, the mother of the father who was always working, when she died, I just thought, what's the point of this? Yes, it shows that people die, that people can experience heartache and loss, and it can affect so many people, but there was no point to it. It was very brief. We barely met that character. We didn't have a proper relationship with that character. And I feel like they were trying to say, okay, so the other family with the workaholic father, they need to have a grief and loss as well. No, they don't. And you're just taking away from the really sick mother and saying, okay, well, she's really sick, but this woman's just died, so let's get emotional about that instead. It was too much. It was irrelevant. It didn't add anything, and it just annoyed me because it proved they were trying too hard. It's like they wanted to make us cry, but I just got annoyed at that. Everything else, absolutely fine. But again, they just tried too hard to put too much into it, and that took away from everything else. But it's fine. Once you can kind of look past that, it's not too bad. I doubt I'll ever watch it again, but it's not a bad film. If it sounds like the kind of film you're in the mood for, even though I've just ruined part of it now, I guess, The Christmas Shoes is maybe worth watching once, if only once.